Hello and welcome to another modelling video. This is Alan from the Mokanaman at YouTube with another Mecha Musume, but this time a 1/7 scale Asuka from Neon Genesis. Rantaya of Mecha Workshop came across matching Ray and Asuka figures and challenged me to a Mecha Musume build-off, which I gladly accepted. At the same time, the Mecha Lounge was doing an air versus ground group build, which I also participated in, starting while I was overseas. And Cam was very grateful in sending me some custom decals for the competition. So I went for some sort of propaganda-led advertisement piece. Starting with the build, I was equipped with this beautiful 1/7 scale figure in some sort of Christmas bikey look, with the leather World War II theme can definitely be pulled out of it. And sitting on my shelf for a while, I bought the E75 Flakpanzer, a experimental turret German tank that was never built or put into production. After the release of the Girls and Panzer stuff, I completely lost interest in building this and had the perfect opportunity in slamming it into this kit. I also had some Games Workshop very thick styrene for moving pieces and starting to chop legs off and bits and pieces, building very fat King Tiger like legs. Anyone who's worked with styrene or thick styrene understands that cutting this material and working with it is a bit tricky, though gluing it together and squaring it off can be tricky if you're just going for a perfect box. I'm putting this together with many panels and going for a more complex shape, and used evergreen 1mm plate for other parts, reinforcing the inside with a little bit of putty for skeleton and strength to hold the weight of the figure. Cam, also on YouTube, link below. Please check out his content. He's a very talented and generous modeler. Sent me these beautiful decals, which he was giving away for everyone to have a common theme in the group build, matching markings to be a part of a similar mythical team on this scenario that was set out. I'll put a link down below of the concept of the group build for a better understanding, and they look quite well. Very nice design, and he personally sent it in the mail after a request of holding it off, so thank you very much for that, mate. Once the legs were fleshed out for their shape and the very fat rubber tracks applied on the front, the feet were drawn out of the actual hull and reinforced with plating on either side, the back and the bottom, again reinforcing the inside with 2-part putty. The cuts seem a bit rough, though with enough putty here and there it smooths out nicely later, and the actual surface of this kit is quite lovely and really adds that extra appeal once the painting and the washes were added later. Again, making all this square, straight cuts and blocking it all together was quite a challenge, especially working with the plastic at different angles. That was the hull of the tank, and cutting all that with the fine-tooth saw was a hell of a task. Though with these combined pictures, things are coming together. The bottom of the figure has large magnets, and soon the top of the striker units or legs will have the same thing. The turret was very extremely easy to build. It was a few steps from the real tank, and the piece is quite massive for an extremely big 35th scale tank, and pieces started coming together from all sorts of other bits box and the actual tank piece together to really bulk it up and detail it with this interestingly scratch built fuel tank at the back of it. It was almost like the selection of pieces I pulled out from all over the workshop fit together perfectly. That all came nice together and is able to be magnetized to the side of the striker units. In the small crevice in between the legs, our wheels start going in to look like they're actually driving the tank tracks, and a heap of other detail. I also find the actual texturing around the legs of the lines interesting, so they're planned to be played with, and more detail is cut out and prepared to be glued all over the shop, including the complicated suspension system and the big chunky armoured kneecaps. Again, all playing to the King Tiger body type as being a very heavy tank, not really portrayed before in the Mecha Musume genre. A little putty and finer detail tweaked by gluing smallish detail places around, this starts to come together very well and giving out its own personality and vibe. The pieces are pulled apart and prepared for priming. My choice of primer, as always, is the Tamiya lacquer. It completely separates from the rest of the figure, meaning I can just focus on airbrushing that and hand painting Vallejo brown on the jacket to change it from a glossy black to something of a bomber jacket. On the face, using 2-part putty, I sculpted an eye patch in reference to the newer Neon Genesis films. Also in pop culture, some Axis characters of the Second World War is portrayed with an eye patch. All works hand in hand. The whole concept of Oscar being German and working on the German tank was also not a coincidence. Off the box art, not absolutely perfect to the Flakpanzer, I chose out Tamiya acrylics to roughly navigate the same scheme of camouflage across these legs, freehand of course, which was a lot of fun. Detail was picked out with a brush, and a fair amount of weathering and other steps, which I will explain later on the other side of the video. Now here is the finished build, about 2 to 3 months worth of work with other bits and pieces projects in this fairly ambitious build. Though it was an immediate ton of fun, I really enjoyed working in a larger scale, even though there is a risk of damaging a figure of a much higher value than a few dollar gashapon. The stress wasn't too great because it was a gift and it was bought online very cheap. Though with confidence now, I'm able to pick up a more expensive figure and completely go down to town on it without any fear of ruining it and producing another piece like this. Working on a chunky or a fatter designer tank gave me the ability and the canvas to just do so much detailing and have so much fun with it. I have displayed it before at Expo, and the feedback was nice. A great figure to work with. I like to work with a lot of skin flesh tone, though just enough clothing to definitely bring in the period that I'm working towards. I was also very happy how as many decals as I can was squeezed across it to pretty much bring awareness of whatever the world or ranks this thing is standing in, of the organisation it is a part of, including a few German Air Force markings here and there, not dancing around or enforcing too much of the Third Reich memorabilia or propaganda. Mostly the technology of the period and not so much of the politics. Well, at least that is with the magic of anime. After the kit was painted on the striker unit bit, at least with the jacket that was purely hand painted and deckled, then hand painted the clear Tamiya matte, which works quite nicely by itself, and an enamel black on the eye patch. The striker unit was airbrushed clear matte by Tamiya, lovely paint, and did a lot of playing with inking and the MIG production pigments, layer of pigments, layer of settler, until I got the effect that I roughly desire. this took a lot longer than I used to normally weathering in the past, though with the larger armor that was definitely worthwhile and gave it some definition. At the time of making this video, I have not received any feedback of how it did in the group build, but it was that exactly a group build and not a competition. The prizes are a bit random, so within the spirit of it, I'm not too concerned how well it goes. It was mostly the fun of building it, and boy, I had a lot. I again always recommend people having a go at a Mecha Musume figure, and here's a picture for the first and last time of the two original toys side by side. The Ray made by Rantea. He went for a Russian Cold War look, all black with bombers and pieces and whatnot. Didn't spend as much time, which it was not necessary for his side of thing, but the kit that he pulled apart and the effort he put into it, it looks very lovely. All in all, thank you very much for watching, and of course, until next time, I will definitely be building another 1/7 scale next year, and I'm tossing up between a KV-2 Russian tank or a Type 97 Japanese tank, using the parts I've bought from the Model Expo, and of course some larger gaming figures I bought from Japan. See ya!